Hello and welcome to the Business Standard Morning Show. I'm Swapnil Joglekar. It's the 10th of October 2023 and here are the questions we'll be answering today. Will elections pose a danger to India's fiscal balance? What is MD and CEO Arnab Banerjee's view on CEAT's quality management? How will Israel-Hamas war and assembly polls impact markets? And what is glacial lake outburst flood? As India gears up for a series of state and national elections, political parties are leaving no stone unturned to secure votes. Elections being the cornerstone of the democracy, the intense competition often leads to a slew of promises and measures aimed at appeasing various interest groups. But these measures often come at the cost of the country's fiscal health. Or don't they? Abhijit Kumar finds the answer.
With assembly elections round the corner in Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh alongside general elections expected early next year, the centre is gearing up to woo its voters. India's fiscal balance has been under strain in recent years, marked by a widening fiscal deficit and increasing public debt. In a recent data released by the Controller General of Accounts, India's fiscal deficit in the first 5 months of FY24 widened to 6.42 trillion rupees. This means that the deficit has already met 36% of the full year target of the government's ceiling of 17.87 trillion rupees. Compared to the same period last year, the fiscal deficit stood at 32.6% of the target set by the government for FY23. In a recent report, the World Bank projected an overall fiscal deficit, the centre and states combined, of 8.7% of the GDP. It further said that the public debt is expected to stabilise at 83% of the GDP. The World Bank also forecast that there would be minimal impact on India's fiscal plans due to the upcoming elections. But the widening deficit has posed the central and state governments with the challenge of maintaining fiscal prudence while trying to win over voters. Earlier this month, the Union government announced an increase in the subsidy on LPG cylinders under the Ujjwala scheme to 300 rupees. The scheme, which provides poor women with free cooking gas connections, a 14.2 kg LPG cylinder will now cost 603 rupees. In FY23, 6,100 crore rupees was provided as Ujjwala subsidy, which was increased to 7,680 crore rupees for the fiscal year 2023-24. While the move is slated to benefit nearly 10 crore households, will put strain on the government's fiscal. Experts are of the opinion that other schemes like the free food grain distribution scheme, which is slated to end in December this year, might see an extension owing to the elections. The 15th installment of the PM Kisan scheme, which aims to provide an annual support of 6,000 rupees to land-holding farmers, might also be disbursed as the election nears. The 14th installment was released in July this year to about 8.5 crore farmer beneficiaries. So, can the upcoming elections put stress on the government's economic consolidation plans?
There will definitely be certain challenges which will come about. Here particularly I'm referring to something like the LPG prices, which were lowered by 300 rupees, first by 200 then 300. This evidently means that there is going to be an increase in terms of what I call the overall subsidy bill on LPG. With the crude oil price going up, there would be a tendency for losses to mount for the oil marketing companies. And there could be certain pressure at some point of time for the government to intervene and probably lower the excise duty. If they do that, then there will again be a loss of revenue on account of tax collections on fuel products. So these, along with the possibilities of other kind of subs being provided, could actually put certain pressure on the overall fiscal balances.
And it's not just the centre eyeing the 2024 Lok Sabha elections. States like Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh and Madhya Pradesh are going to polls by the end of this year. The Rajasthan government, in its budget for FY24, aimed for a fiscal deficit of 4% of the gross state domestic product or GSDP. Meanwhile, Chhattisgarh projected its fiscal deficit at 2.99% of the GSDP, comfortably below the 3% limit mandated by the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act 2003. Meanwhile, Madhya Pradesh anticipated a deficit of 4% of the GSDP in its budgetary estimates. However, as the states approach election season, a slew of SOPs are being announced by the incumbent governments to woo the voters. The Rajasthan government launched the Chief Minister Free Annapurna Food Packet Scheme on 15th August, under which it will distribute free food packets to more than 10 million people. While the move is aimed at aiding the poor, reportedly the scheme will cost the Ashok Gehlot government 4,500 crore rupees annually. In July, the Bhupesh Baghel-led government in Madhya Pradesh announced that the contractual workers in the state will now have access to pensions, health insurance and gratuity benefits to par with the state government employees. This leads to the question, how will the state's attempts to woo the voters have a bearing on state finances and the overall fiscal situation?
As it is the post-COVID, the fiscal conditions at the state level is really very weak, particularly when you look at some of the states. Some of the states are actually facing at a fiscal crisis. It certainly will put huge pressure on the state finances, but the casualty would be, in my view, is the state's capital expenditure strategy, which will have a long-lasting impact on the state.
However, populist measures do bring in some relief for the poor amid high inflationary environment. So, how can the government strike the right political economy balance during elections?
We have to realize that I think all governments come to power based on certain promises made to the public, and that they have to adhere to it also. So therefore, there are certain political economy compulsions which are there, which make states actually keep spending on various line items. But I think the task actually finally is that how do you manage both of them? So I think that's why we have the FRBM, we have these norms which have been laid down, saying that in case you're going to spend something more on X, which is supposedly what you're calling freebies, then there's obviously less money left in case we don't see the kind of buoyancy in revenue, in which case you'll have to cut back on other expenditures.
As India prepares for the upcoming state and general elections, governments have a responsibility to address the needs of their citizens. A balanced approach is essential to ensure the fiscal stability of the nation. Analysts believe that governments need to prioritize fiscal discipline by carefully evaluating the long-term fiscal impact of any proposed welfare scheme.
Economists believe that the election-related reliefs are unlikely to impact the fiscal balance significantly, as governments usually plan for a buffer in their budget preceding the election year to allow for welfare expenditures. Demonstrating India's potential for excellence, tyre manufacturer CEAT recently bagged the Deming Grand Prize for its commitment to Total Quality Management, or TQM. CEAT is now the first of its kind in the world to receive the award. In an interview with Business Standard, Sohini Das, Chief Executive of CEAT Arnab Banerjee, shares his perspective on the importance of TQM for a tyre maker and more.
Welcome to the Business Standard Show.
Thank you very much.
I'll get on with asking you that CEAT became the first tyre maker to win the Deming Grand Prize this year. Why do you think the other tyre makers have not been able to win it so far? Are there any specific challenges?
Different companies and brands, they follow different quality standards. We thought that this is the most appropriate quality standard for a company like us. And therefore, we have invested time since 2009. It's not a here and now journey. It's not an accreditation. It's not a certificate. It's the way it's a recognition of the way CEAT works, right? 2017 we got Deming, and so after 6 more years we are getting Deming Grand. It's been a tough journey, to align so many people in one direction. Many people think it's a manufacturing award. It's not. It's a philosophy which I explained. And CEAT is unique in the sense the entire company has got a Deming Grand Prize. You will find XYZ company, doing one plant which is Deming Award. The rest of the plants are not Deming Award, Deming Awardee. The marketing function is not. The procurement function is not. But in our case, top leadership down to the last man standing, all functions, everything as a whole is not only a Deming Awardee, but a Deming Grand Awardee. So I think that's the differentiator with many other companies who are also Deming Awardee.
As the Deming Prize winner in 2017, what were the changes in processes and what kind of upgrades you had to make to sustain the total quality management and win the Deming Grand eventually in 2023?
Digital interventions were very low level in 2017, and we were just getting started out. Now Halol factory and Chennai factory and Nagpur factory are Industry 4.0 enabled. Halol has got the Lighthouse certification also from World Economic Forum. In the sales side, there had been huge amount of digital interventions vis-a-vis channel, vis-a-vis customers, and in some areas we are just starting off. There have been robotic process automation to remove non-value-added work inside the organization. So that's one area, and the data infrastructure and the connectivity of CEAT with its vendors on one side and with its customers and channel on the other side was very rudimentary in 2017. It has improved, and all this is leading to real-time inputs which we need to act on and improve upon. So our speed has increased, our quality consciousness has increased.
How critical is it for a tire maker to ensure TQM according to you?
I will answer your question at two levels. Level one, total quality management does not just mean quality. It is what we call QCDSM. Q is for quality, S is for safety, which you mentioned, D is for delivery, on-time delivery of products, and C is for cost, right? And M is for employee morale. So you see, it is a 360-degree concept, right? And the basic concept of TQM is you cannot improve quality unless all these things improve simultaneously. Secondly, I will answer your question directly. If you drive outside the specs at a very high speed on the highways, you see so many accidents happening. If you drive in the wrong manner, if your tire pressure is incorrect, if you are using a wrong tire for the wrong application, it can be fatal for a car driver, and it can lead to a lot of failures of tire for a truck driver, leading to a huge loss of income. So safety is critical, quality is critical, cost is critical, employee morale is critical. So everything improves together if we follow TQM.
Having won this award, does it help you to showcase yourself in a different light in the global community, in the global market? Basically, do you see this improving your global standing and your exports as such?
Ambarnath, Nagpur, Halol, Chennai. All these 4 plants are British safety rated 5-star. Okay, so we are as good or better than many OEMs. We do communicate such things to our OEM partners and to public at large, and it does add to the brand in terms of the premiumness, in terms of the imagery, in terms of the culture of the people. I mean, we are listeners. We don't have arrogance of saying that we know everything that you want and we are the best. That's not the meaning of TQM. TQM means tell me what more I need to improve and I'll do it the fastest. So when people experience us, our customers, our vendors, even you, if you experience us over a period of time, we are that kind of a brand to all stakeholders, and we do communicate and we practice that.
Thank you for joining us. Thanks for your time. Look forward to meeting you soon.
Meanwhile, the geopolitical developments with Israel and Hamas have yet again cast a shadow on global equity and commodity markets. Indian markets, on their part, have to also deal with a busy assembly election calendar over the next few weeks. So what should your market strategy be amid these developments? Is it time to buy or sell stocks? Nikita Vashisht and Rex Keno bring us some interesting analyst views in our next report.
If the painful mix of rising bond yields, expectations of higher for longer interest rates, and fears of global slowdown wasn't enough, the geopolitical developments between Israel and Hamas have rocked investor sentiment. An immediate impact was seen on oil prices. After having cooled off from around $97 a barrel mark to around $85 a barrel, oil prices shot past $90 a barrel mark, rising nearly 8% in just 2 days. Equity markets, on their part, also turned skittish on Monday, October 9, where the domestic benchmark indices fell 0.7% each. Across Asia and Europe, key indices were mixed with returns in the range of -0.5% to +0.2%. According to experts, the rising geopolitical tensions in West Asia will create uncertainty in the equity markets in the near term, as it may have ramifications for the energy market.
Definitely, it has the impact on the oil prices because India is one of the key oil importer in the world, and 80% of our oil requirements are imports. So definitely, it have impact on the crude oil prices, and also it have in short term it have the impact on the sentiment of the market also. Whether it is going to be one of the global issue or it's going to be just restricted to that particular geography with that region.
Analysts believe any escalation of war may flare oil prices further, contributing to persistently elevated inflation globally. Meanwhile, back home, the Election Commission of India announced dates for the assembly elections in 5 states, inducing further volatility in the market.
Assembly election trend could be different from Lok Sabha. However, election means some uncertainty, and markets generally tend to be volatile during that period.
Against this, what should be investors' strategy in the current market?
After a very strong run-up by the small and mid-cap companies, one need to be very careful in terms of the companies in the small and mid-cap space which one is evaluating for investments. Any disappointment in this space especially could lead to a significant drawdown for investors. A more safer bet would be investments in large cap stocks right now.
From a technical standpoint, the Nifty may retest its key support around 19,300 level, while the Sensex has support at 64,800, followed by 64,300. On October 10, investors will monitor developments between Israel and Hamas. Besides, they will also react to overnight speeches by the US Fed officials in the backdrop of the war.
He's making plans for an early retirement. Business Standard.
Investors should expect sharp swings in equities this week if the Israel-Hamas conflict escalates and the US gets involved. Back home, the glacial lake outburst of Lonak Lake on the upper reaches of Sikkim washed away a hydropower project in Chungthang on October 4 by sheer force. It caused extensive damage downstream, impacting over 25,000 people and army personnel. But what are glacial lake outburst floods? Ayush Mishra explains.
The catastrophic glacial lake outburst in Sikkim on 4th October reminded the country of the deadly flood that hit Kedarnath Valley in 2013. Then it was the Chorabari glacial lake. This time it's the Lonak. Both the natural disasters were triggered by glacial lake outburst, which unleashed flash floods. They claimed lives and wreaked havoc up to tens of kilometers downstream. Glacial lake outburst floods occur when a glacial lake overflows and bursts, Heavy rainfall triggered the lake outburst in Sikkim and Kedarnath Valley, but such events are becoming more frequent as climate change has accelerated melting of glaciers. Rising global temperatures caused by climate change are leading to the retreat and loss of mass in glaciers worldwide. The melted water collects in low areas near the glacier's end, creating glacial lakes. As these lakes expand, the pressure on natural barriers such as moraines or ice dams intensifies, making them vulnerable to collapse. Since 2009, 25 glacial lakes and water bodies in the Himalayas have experienced an increase in their water surface areas. They pose a threat to 7 Indian states and union territories, 6 of which are situated in the Himalayan region. The onset and quick discharge of glacial lake outburst floods often leaves inadequate time for warning and actions, especially for populations residing within 10 to 15 kilometers of the source lake. In the past 2 decades, Sikkim also has repeated warnings from government agencies and local bodies like the affected citizens of Tista about the looming threat of glacial lake outburst floods. Outburst of the South Lonak Lake was a natural consequence. The National Disaster Management Authority's guideline for managing glacial lake outbursts include identifying risky lake through field observations, remote monitoring from space and reducing the water volume with controlled breaching, pumping, etc. The NDMA also proposes enhancing early warning systems and training local manpower for emergencies. While the government should exercise caution when constructing mega infrastructure in ecologically sensitive zones, regular monitoring of glacial lakes and the establishment of a national data center for this purpose can help mitigate such disasters in the times to come.
I'm backed by the nation's trusted bank, SBI, the banker to every Indian.
That's all for today. For more news, views and insights, log into business-standard.com.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.